I've heard somewhere that the Holocaust can be referred to the story of 6 million and things like that, but I think it's actually 6 million stories of one event.
My name is Erwin Gans. I was born in August of 1929.
What's your name?
Inga Markowitz. 10 years old.
Mine is Inga.
How old were you when the Holocaust first broke out?
4 years old.
The 6 million different stories, and probably more than that, the ton of stories that are out there, all have a different meaning, and all are important in their own way, because they all shed light on the same subject.
I was about 19 years old. We lived the last 10 years in Lodz.
Well, it started out with my grandfather that we interviewed as well.
Unfortunately, we did know that most of his family, all of his family, and not on my mother's side, but his father's side, died in Bergen-Belsen.
He left the Netherlands when he was a very, very young boy to escape the Nazis, and the rabbi was always pretty interested in that, like wanting to hear the story.
My first name is Lazare. They called me Larry. I was born in Paris, April 18, 1925. I was 18, 15.
We decided, sure, we can interview him, and then it became, well, there's other people in the community, and they would like to tell their stories, and it just took off.
I was 7 when my family left Berlin and immigrated to the Netherlands to try to escape Hitler. And I was 12 when we were first deported.
I was 11 years old, okay? June 22nd, 1941.
Crystal Night was November 8th, 1938.
My story is about a young Jewish boy growing up in Nazi Germany, and I was there doing Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass.
Kristallnacht is the night of shattered glass where they burned down the synagogues and the Torahs on the street, and they burnt them. My grandfather had an art gallery. They smashed that and they smashed the windows. And in other words, it was the smashing of glass and stuff. It was a horrible, horrible night.
It happened here at his congregation 10 years ago when we were going to put together a 70th anniversary of Kristallnacht.
When I came home from school that day, my mother was waiting for me at the train station.
And as we started sharing our ideas for this program, Erwin very quietly told me his story.
And as we walked home, she told me that horrendous things happened at our house while I was in school. When I got close to the house, glass was all over the front yard and on the street. And inside the house, the Hitler Jugend, the Hitler Youth, with hatchets, smashed all of the mirrors, pictures, slashed the sofas and chairs, and anything else they saw.
He never saw himself as a true survivor, or that his story had merit, or that people would find it interesting.
Well, that very same night, which became known as Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, what the Gestapo did that night was they burned the only synagogue in town where my brother was the last bar mitzvah. They also destroyed all of the Jewish businesses. They robbed the stores, they burned the stores, including my grandmother's. And right next door to our house was a tavern. And every night we could hear the Nazis sing songs about killing the Jews.
And now he speaks all over New Jersey to high schools and middle schools and adult groups and Jewish groups and non-Jewish groups, because his story truly is amazing. The strength of his own grandmother, the strength of his mother, and the circumstances that all made a perfect storm to permit them to leave their town in Germany.
The Germans had signs that were put in the window that said, Jews not wanted.
My parents didn't escape. They had to wear the badge, Jew, but they were, fortunately, they were French citizens. So that's what saved them, because the people who were not French citizens, they were sent to the concentration camp, famous, called Auschwitz. Maybe you heard of it.
Any public facility had a big sign, for Juden verboten, means Jews prohibited.
And this document prepared by the Gestapo showed the names of all the Jews who lived in Bernkastel and Coos and the surrounding community, that showed the name, the age, their location, what kind of business they were in. And if you look closely, I don't know if you can see closely, but you see my mother's name, my brother's name, and my name on this. And this document was used by the Gestapo to send the Jews to the concentration camps.
When I was in concentration, but it was under the German occupation, I lived in hell, okay? We were treated just like animals, okay? Just like ants, actually. I used to wish I was a dog, especially a German Shepherd, because the dogs, they loved them and they fed them. Us human beings, they treated just like an ant. When you walk in the street, you see an ant, you step on it, kill it, and no questions asked, right? That's the way we were treated.
Well, the first one we interviewed was Saul. He was very nice and could talk for an hour if we let him about it. No questions, even to guide him.
I spent 4 years in concentration camp. I suppose 6 concentration camps. The Kovnaketer, which in 1943 became a concentration camp. I was also in Stutthof concentration camp, in Dachau. I was in Kaufering and Landsberg concentration camp, Auschwitz, Birkenau. See, I got my number. Here's my number, B2858. That camp, Birkenau, was all the killing was done. They killed 1.5 million people there. And from Birkenau, with the B, you'll never see a number up to 5,000. Anybody came there went to the gas chambers. The gas chambers and the crematoriums were going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Actually, up to this day, when I'm by a barbecue, right, my mind goes back to Birkenau because I could smell the flesh burning. Never left me.
You know, it was kind of what I expected to hear, but the further we went on and the worst stories we heard, it really, really hit me how bad these people were suffering, which you can't get out of reading any book.
Bergen-Belsen was a terrible camp, brutality, terrible conditions. The adults did slave labor, 6.5 days a week. They went out of camp, work either in factories or building barracks or digging trenches, or it was really hard labor.
And we went on the Dead March from there in December 1944. Okay? Bitter cold, just picture yourself. The only thing we had was wooden shoes. Wore the pajamas, no winter clothes, only pajamas. No shoes, no nothing. Walking in the bitter cold in the snow.
3 brothers. they survived in Auschwitz. This is the three brothers survived. And I was united with my family in 1961. My brothers got me back to the States. And they all meet me in New York, but when the ship arrived. That was a big celebration.
Where did I go after the Holocaust? Yeah. Well, I was liberated in Buchenwald, okay, on April 11, 1945. I was liberated on my birthday, actually. I got my birthday present.
My father made arrangements after Kristallnacht to get out of Germany, and we did not know whether that would work. We left on the second to the last ship out of Hamburg.
When the war ended in 1945, I was 3, so I went back to my parents. So I came here, and I got married. My wife was born in Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
There was a crack in the wall, and I looked out, and I saw a star with a tank in the perimeter of the woods, always back, right? And then it disappeared. And about 15, 20 minutes later, somebody can run again in the barrack and said, "We are free, the Americans are here." And she asked me if I want to come to America. I said, sure, because I didn't have no father, no mother, no brothers, no sisters, nobody. I didn't know I survived or not. And I said, sure. And finally, on April 15, 1947, I arrived in America, the greatest country in the world. I'm the proudest American you want to meet, up to this day.
We all scattered, and by June we got together again and were lucky enough to get visas to go to Kenya.
We were liberated from Bergen-Belsen because of an exchange, a prisoner exchange. We were very lucky to be part of it. So we were very lucky to be included. Only 301 people were selected for that transport out of thousands. And so that's like a miracle.
The other two sisters and my mother, they was little. They went right to the crematorium. One of my sisters was on the underground. She was killed in the woods, and she was in the partisans, one of my sisters. My father, he died in Poland. They called the doctor, and the doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with your father. You just give him some food." He died from starvation there. There was no food available at all.
And he hollered, "Juden raus," means Jews out, in a loud voice. And the 50-month-old baby got scared and started to cry. And the German soldier grabbed the baby from my cousin's arms and threw it up into the air, okay? And caught it on the bayonet. You know what a bayonet is? Anybody? It's a knife on the rifle, okay? Threw up the baby, caught the baby on the bayonet, and twirling it around like that and having fun, killing, laughing while he was killing the baby.
Everybody on my father's side was gassed in Auschwitz. I lost an entire family.
My brother was arrested and he was shot by the German.
My mother had 8 brothers and sisters, not one of them survived. My mother got killed 2 days before liberation.
Everyone knows the facts about the event, everyone knows the stories, but people don't know the personal tales of the people that were truly affected, put in the concentration camps, and just what happened. The families that were separated, the just horrors, I guess, that happened during this time period.
Don't let it happen again. Fight it. Leave. Go to Israel.
It's something I'll never forget. To me, it was like yesterday. Same thing, because it's in me. Until I die, it'll be there all the time.
I hope that with the younger generation asking the questions and finding the answers, they will do a far better job than we have.
Of course, I think all the kids today should learn about it because it's important of everybody's life. It's part of the history. Unfortunately, that's what happened.
Why should children be asking the questions? Because they need to do a much better job with this world than we have. And I hope they will listen to those who have survived.
Like, looking back on this time, what were your thoughts while all of this happened?
That's a very difficult question. I was very frightened.
One of the things we all thought when the war ended, this was the end. But as we look around now, we have more refugees in the world than ever before. And maybe you try to understand a little bit what it's like for a refugee or stranger to land your land. And then sometimes we have some groups in Ann Arbor, we try to do something for the people around.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, of course. And I think it's wonderful that you're doing what you're doing.
Looking back at the Holocaust, listen, the worst thing that ever happened is the Holocaust. Since the world in existence, nobody lived through what Holocaust survivors lived through. That's what I believe in. Because, and I tell people, I says, God took the Holocaust survivors. He put us to hell. And he showed us what hell looks like. He says, now you go educate people to love, not to hate, respect one another, and the most important thing, treat people the way you want to be treated.
How do you feel about talking about the Holocaust?
Well, I don't feel too good. I try to forget something. Everything wakes up. How's the Holocaust affecting me? That's a good question. Well, I have one question. They call it in Hebrew, Lama Hazaftanu. This means, why did God abandon us?
This kind of man's inhumanity to man should never have happened. It should never happen again. But I don't think we have learned a whole lot from the Holocaust, looking at the world today. I mean, we have this phrase, never again, that's repeated over and over again, but it doesn't happen just because you say it. You have to become active.
Well, I think it's important to speak about the Holocaust and what I went through, because if I don't talk about it, one of these days when my generation is gone, it's only going to be in books and on television. And there's so many people now that say it never happened.
You have a story that has to be heard. You have a story that has to be documented. You have a story that has to be collected and sent to Yad Vashem. Your memories cannot die with you.
I think the one thing that stood out to me a lot is, I can't remember who, and it might have happened multiple times, but I remember after every interview, I'd shake their hand, say thank you for sharing the story. And I remember one person said, thank you for letting me tell my story.
But I'm into my 89th year, and I'm here, that's all, so I make the best of it.
My country is America, and America is where I will live for the rest of my life. America saved my life, and I would do everything I can possibly do for this country.
The world don't make people, it's people that make the world. And it's up to us to make a beautiful place.
לא לפחד, השם אלוקיך הולך איתך. עם ישראל לא מפחד, השם אלוקינו השם אחד. גשר צר, והעיקר לא לפחד כלל, ומלמעלה הוא שומר, צר ואויב לא יתקרב, אח לאח ויד ביד, ישראל זה עם אחד, ומלמעלה הוא עוזר, שומר שומר ישראל.